Now, is this argument really what underlies the reasoning of some religious people on on the basis of which they believe that God exists? Well, I think one of the most common, or I shouldn't say one of the most common, a common thing that you hear when you ask people why they believe that God exists and why they think they're a good reason is they say based on their holy scriptures. So let's consider one of them to see something from the Old Testament, and we'll see how this relates to this particular argument. That is, here we get towards the end of the Old Testament. In Deuteronomy, it says, Moses finished writing the words of this Torah in a scroll to the very end. Moses then gave the orders to the Levites who carried the Ark of God's covenant, saying, take this Torah scroll and place it to the side of the Ark of God, your Lord's covenant, leaving it there as a witness. As a witness, it is alleged to be the writing of the very book, this sacred book, this holy book, is the evidence on which people base their, it's in the text, people base their belief that God exists based on what was written there, based on the accounts of the miracles in the Old Testament. Now, people say, well, how do you make the inference, or how do you know that an historical figure like George Washington existed? And maybe you say, oh, that's recent, we have collaborating. How about, do we know that there was a philosopher named Socrates that lived 2,500 years ago? Or do we know that there was somebody named Hammurabi? The historians know that thing, and people typically think that they do. Now, the question is, are the holy scriptures of the religion good evidence for thinking that those actions actually took place? And people argue that they have been confirmed the same way history books have been confirmed. So going back, they'll tell you absolutely we have these accounts of miracles. Sometimes there were multiple people involved in the miracle seeing it. So it's reasonable, the only way those miracles could have been taken place is if God had done it. So it's reasonable to think that God had done it, and based on these people's participating and they're recording the event and other people being there, it's reasonable for everyone to believe that God exists.